We're in the trenches with Dave Lapham, presented by First Star Logistics. The Cincinnati Bengals fell to 0-2 on the season after a 27-24 loss to the Baltimore Ravens. Dave Lapham had the call and joined us for his post-game call about the loss. And as a reminder, First Star Logistics will give away some great prizes each week the Bengals play this season. Be sure to visit the First Star Logistics Twitter/X page for more details, and a link will be below in the description from this video. Dave, last season, the Bengals opened the season with back-to-back losses. However, this year, we're talking about two AFC North rivalry losses, not one. How much of a difference does this make from a year ago?
Well, I think it's totally different. You know, like you say, it's two division losses instead of one. It's a different football team. There are different components to the football team. How they lost the football games in different ways. And I think the biggest thing is that I'm amongst the people that think of the 16 teams in the AFC, there are at least a dozen of them that have a playoff shot. So you start 0-2 and put yourself in that kind of a hole. You have to climb over a bunch of teams in a very short time frame, potentially. After getting off to a bad start, you have to rectify it and hope that other teams, have some difficulty during the stretch of their season, potentially. Particularly when you do it so soon. So you have to right the ship as quickly as you possibly can, because you can't be giving away games, too many of them, too soon, if there's that many teams that are capable of making a playoff push. Because, November, December, and January, when teams will be making the playoff push, like I say, you may have too much ground to make up and too many teams to have to try to leap over.
Dave, we have to talk about a bright spot. Charlie Jones, the rookie, 81-yard punt return for a touchdown, something the Bengals had not done since, I believe, Pac-Man Jones back in 2012.
Yeah, he did it in the home opener against Cleveland, and exactly 2 years later, Charlie Jones does it almost to the day. It's crazy. It was to the day, I guess, or close to that. So, that was a huge play, a special teams touchdown like that. When you're dealing with the Baltimore Ravens, you're only going to get 6, 7, 8 possessions in the game. So when you can just say, all right, well, that possession, I got a touchdown without even having to have a possession. Now, what it does, it gives the Ravens back-to-back possessions. And in the first half, that was one of the reasons, other than the fact that they executed so much better than the Bengals. They ran 44 snaps in the first half to the Bengals 17. Well, that's because they had back-to-back possessions and they went on multiple play drives with Charlie having that, punt return touchdown sandwiched in the middle of it. But, man, they had 44 plays for 225 yards. The Bengals ran 17 for 63 yards. Joe Burrow had 35 yards passing at the half. I thought there's no way he's going to throw for less than what he threw last week, which was over 80 yards. I'm like, man, he's tracking for it with 35 yards at halftime. But he ended up with 222 yards and found some rhythm and timing with T. Higgins and others in the second half of that football game. But don't know how bad the calf is. He was working that equipment on that calf at the end of the football game. And fortunately, they have a Monday night game, so there's extra days there to work and make sure that he's able to go. But right now, it's too early to say. It's a day-to-day thing right now, how badly he exacerbated that calf injury.
When we start talking about this Bengals offense and its struggles, looking really kind of sluggish, in his post-game press conference, Joe mentioned that him missing camp may be playing a role in the offense's sluggish start. But they did put together that drive in the third quarter, but it ended with the interception in the red zone. The Ravens turned that into points with Lamar Jackson on a touchdown pass to go up 20-10. How significant was that turnover at that point of the game?
It was the only one in the game, because the turnover the Bengals had was nullified by a face mask penalty, putting the defensive lineman putting his hands up in the face mask of an offensive lineman. It took the Bengals takeaway away from them. So that was the only turnover of the game. The Ravens were +1 in the turnover department. It wasn't just a turnover. It was in the red zone that led to no points. With the Bengals' first red zone penetration of the season ended up in a turnover. And then they go down and score a touchdown. So literally, you're looking at, a 10 to 14 point swing, depending on what the Bengals would have done. That was huge. That was monstrous.
Everyone talks about the three, the Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, and how explosive the offense is. but it always seems to be long drives that the Bengals put together. Fourth quarter, they put together a 16-play drive, ended with the T. Higgins touchdown, gave fans some hope they could still pull the game out, but not so much on the offense. The defense today just was not able to get the stops when it needed against Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I thought that the Baltimore Ravens kind of hurt the Bengals in the middle of the football field, both in the running game and in the passing game. Lamar Jackson did a lot of his damage in the middle of the football field, and also the running game. The Ravens 37 carries, 178 yards. The longest run was a 20-yarder by Edwards, but I mean he averaged over 6 yards a carry. Lamar averaged 4.5 yards a carry, 54 big yards on 12 carries, and none of it was other than a quarterback draw. It wasn't designed; it was all improvisational, creating and extending plays. But I thought the middle of the football field was owned by the Baltimore Ravens in both the running game and the passing game. They had a little complimentary action to Duvernay. They, brought him on a sweep, like a reverse motion sweep, 3 times for 15 yards to kind of complement things a little bit. But they pounded Big Gus the Bus up inside 10 times, Lamar Jackson 12 times, Hill 11. So it was by committee, 33 carries by those 3 ball carriers, with Jackson being one of them, equally distributed 10, 12, and 11.
As you said, the Bengals get an extra day to prepare. Big game next Monday night against the Rams. Ring of Honor ceremony will happen with Boomer Esiason and Chad Johnson. One, how important is getting that extra day, especially with the uncertainty of not just Joe Burrow, but maybe Nick Scott as well. And then, the Rams, is that a team that the Bengals can get healthy on and maybe get this thing headed in the right direction?
Yeah, the Rams had a big win in their opener. It's to be determined, that's for sure. I mean, I was hoping that the ruler of the jungle, with AJ Green being the ruler of the jungle today, would give the Bengals a little jolt, a little burst of energy to start the game out, and they didn't play a very good first half at all, like we already talked about. So, you would hope that the Ring of Honor, with having Boomer Esiason and Chad Ochocinco Johnson being inducted at halftime, would be something that everybody would be excited about, and most importantly, the players. I can say that the fans that were into the game, it was a sellout. They did as much as they could, but they're not down on the football field playing. So the Bengals, they've got to get a win. I mean, it turns into a got to have it day. There's no question about it. That Monday Night Football game is enormous, and the Rams are going to have to be the team that the Bengals put in the W column first.
All right, Dave, you played this game for many years. What you've been on different teams that went to the Super Bowl, and teams that had success and teams that had failures. If you're one of those players in that locker room, what's your week like this week?
Yeah, your week is going scouring that tape and learning from it. Again, just like the opener, you can't the opener on the road, you can't ignore it because it happened. I mean, it's a reality. So you have to learn from it, look at it, make your corrections, and put it in the memory bank in terms of the corrections. But that's it. Other than that, bury it, put it away, compartmentalize, and move on. And there's nothing you can do about those first 2 games that got away from you. Now you have to focus on the 15 games that are remaining that starts with the Rams, the Los Angeles Rams. You got to go take care of business on that Monday Night Football game. There's no question about it. You have a long week of preparation. You should do extra rest, and the Bengals will probably need it in a couple of cases, like you talk about, with guys nicked up and injured a little bit. And then after that, you're facing a short week. So that's life in the National Football League. But the biggest thing is getting that W, getting that win against the Rams.
You're in the trenches with Dave Lapham, presented by First Star Logistics. Again, as a reminder, First Star Logistics will be giving away some great prizes each week the Bengals play this season. So be sure to visit the First Star Logistics Twitter/X page for details. And as I said before, we'll have a link below in the description of this video. All right, Dave, I know it's a long day for you. This one a little bit easier. Don't have the trip coming back home. You get a chance to actually go home and put your feet up and maybe relax and watch some football the rest of the day. Let's talk about going forward this team. Last year, 0-2, they turn things around. They end up in the AFC Championship game. Does it feel different this year than it did a year ago? Or is it just, you just never know because this season is a long season?
Yeah, it is a long season, but I do know one thing in the National Football League, particularly in the AFC, like we just described, with the number of teams that are playoff potential teams, it's hard to put together a 10-game winning streak like they did last year, including the playoffs. Winning the last 8 in the regular season and the 2 playoff games, that's a tough thing to do. So if you're relying on that, that's fool's gold. I mean, I would not be relying on that. I would try to get hot as quickly as I possibly can and string together some victories and not put it to the back half of the season to that extent. I would try to get more done in the front half of the season. You stubbed your toe twice. Don't keep stubbing it. Make sure that you've got some padding in your shoes and you can walk cleanly and get it done.
Dave, any final thoughts you have about this week's game before we put it to bed? Let's get this 0-2 start out of the way. Let's get on a win streak starting on the Monday night game a week from now.
Yeah, I do agree with what Joe Burrow was talking about in his presser. It's preseason for him. It's preseason for a lot of guys because they don't have any timing or rhythm with him. So offensively, hopefully they started to hit their stride a little bit in the second half. The first 6 quarters of this season were brutal. I mean, less than 150 yards in the opener on the road, and to have as few yards as they had at halftime in this one, I think it was 14 yards at the half. That's crazy. So in the second half, they looked more and more like the Bengals offense. They started getting a rhythm and started utilizing all their weapons. And the number of weapons that they have and the quarterback that they have, it's just a matter of getting the rhythm and timing down. And hopefully the second half of this football game was a start toward that, Dave.
He is Dave Lapham. You've been In the Trenches, presented by First Star Logistics. And a final reminder, be sure to take part and participate in the First Star Logistics giant giveaway every week the Bengals play this season. Visit First Star Logistics Twitter/X page for more details, and we'll have a description in the description, a link for you to go to take part in this. Dave, as always, appreciate the time. Hopefully you can enjoy the rest of your Sunday. New week starts tomorrow.
Right on. New week starts tomorrow, and it's a long week. And the Bengals, I don't think that they've got any objection to a long week. Get their minds right, get their bodies right, beat the Rams.
For First Star Logistics, this has been Dave Burke. You have been In the Trenches with Dave Lapham.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realized self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.